Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, folks. And you know what? Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I do know the Leafs are starting. If they haven't already, it's the playoffs, and it will be a struggle for us to compete against our team, especially if the Leafs do move on, or maybe your team moves on, for you to join us every Monday. But I really appreciate all of you folks joining us tonight. We do have lots going on. We are still waiting for our guest, Emily, to show up, but Mike is going to be joining me shortly with a couple of announcements. I have a couple of announcements, and of course, Yvonne as well. Hope everybody had a great weekend. How was your walleye opener? If, in fact, you got out for walleye opener. Did see a lot of trout being caught, so it looks to me like the rivers are just chock full of steelhead. Great to see the pictures. And speaking of pictures, I can't emphasize enough, for those of you who use the inbox, the CFN inbox, to share your pictures so that we can do edits. I really appreciate that on behalf of the editors. If you folks can continue to use the inbox, it makes it so much easier. We had a legacy chat last night, and I want to thank all the legacy members who joined me. It just makes it easier for our photo editors to do your edits without having to go through the Facebook news feed and gather content. So if you can share it to the inbox, thank you. And to those who are doing it and continue to do it, we really, really appreciate it. I do have a couple things that I want to touch on. We were running a contest that started about 2 weeks ago, and it was basically something that we're really proud of here at CFN. It is in regards to the outdoor flavors, who have gone above and beyond, and with their help, we have managed to create a CFN version or a CFN flavor. And we asked all of you to pick what we should call it. And the feedback was, it was okay. It was lukewarm. We were definitely expecting to see a lot more. So as legacy members, we decided to make a decision, and this will be easy for all of us to follow. So of course, this is the mystery brand. It is an outdoor flavor. It is, it's a great concoction that they've put together. I myself have already tried it. It is absolutely delicious, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. But of course, we want a name for it. We picked a name. It is called the CFN Blend. However, there was an added contest giveaway courtesy of the incredible Shaw family, very generous Shaw family, because they want to see someone join us at Camp Macintosh. So because some people, they answered, they gave their ideas and offered up suggestions, we don't want to deter that. We allowed everybody to participate, but now it's about picking someone to come with us to Camp Macintosh. So it is called the CFN Blend, and the only one that I think came close was Barry Trache. So Barry, I'm going to add 2 of your names to the wheel, but anybody who can join us in September at Camp McIntosh for the CFN OFC retreat, we want you, when you see this post along with the Outdoor Flavors logo, if you will, we want you to put your name in the comments with a green check mark. What that signifies is that you are only entering once. You can only enter once, and that you are eligible to come that weekend of September 23rd to 25th. Easy enough. So it is called the CFN blend. We are going to be making that as available and as quick as we possibly can. And again, I want to thank everybody that participated. But yeah, Barry was probably the only one that came somewhat close. And for that, Barry, we're going to make sure that we add 2 ballots on your behalf because of it. And going forward, hopefully we will pick a very deserved and happy CFNer to join us at Camp McIntosh because your spot's already been paid. On that note, I do have to remind you that if you are coming to either this event.
Hi, I'm Warren.
And I'm Doris.
We have one question for you CFNers.
Are you ready?
Oh, baby, am I ready? Are you ready? You bet I'm ready.
We're ready.
I'm ready. I'm going to see if my better half is ready. Hey, Tracy.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
So August 15th to the 20th, that is up at Horwood Lake Lodge. And this is the other event, as I just mentioned. Of course, Camp McIntosh. This is going to be an OFC Nation event. And we are really looking forward to seeing everybody up there. But I have to urge you, get booked, pay your deposits, get your butts in a bed. Because especially at Camp McIntosh, those beds are quickly disappearing. On that note, we have some really good news that I'm hoping Mike is going to share with us about the CFN Fish Off. So let me bring in Mike right now. Mikey, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Scotty?
Oh, fantastic, dude. Living the dream, as they say.
Yes, sir. So, a couple things. I'm going to be quick, like I am always. Let's share my screen here. If you haven't registered for the CFN Fish Off, make sure to do this. So, all you got to do is go to cfnfishoff.com. Scott is going to show the poster because we have Shimano, more Shimano, and more Shimano to give away. And all you got to do is enter as many different species as possible. The date is May 2nd. That means, Scotty, the CFN Fish Off starts in 19 days.
Like little over 2 weeks. I can't believe it. I cannot believe how fast.
19 days.
Yeah.
Going fast. Over 300 anglers signed up already. All you got to do is go to cfnfishoff.com, find a partner, sign up. If you don't have a partner, sign up as an individual. We'll find a partner for you. Or ask a parent, ask a neighbor, ask a friend. They just have to be in the same province. For all of those that have already signed up, you should have got an email last night with all the rules. Part 1 of the rules. There's a part 2 coming, and that was based upon my meeting with Anglers Atlas today. So part 1 of the rules has been sent to you. That way you can plan how you want to strategize, what species you want to catch in what week. Go read it. If you did not get it, please reach out to me and I will make sure that you get it. But every single person that registered as of Sunday night should have got that first informational email. The second email will be coming this week, and it'll show you how do I sign up for Anglers Atlas, how do I download the MyCatch app, and after I do that, how do I actually submit a fish? That's part 2. The first email is just the rules so you can get familiar with all the ins and outs of the tournament.
Right on, Mike.
Right. Next is early bird draw. You had to register before May 1st. So on one of these upcoming Tourney Tuesdays, everyone who's registered prior to May 1st, we will pick a name and maybe you will win this. And I'm thinking we might actually do another early bird draw for that last push, but that is to be determined. And something that does not have to be determined is who is competing on the television side of the CFN Fish Off, our television tournament. So join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock. We've already revealed 6 of the 12 anglers. The remaining 6, you will find out tomorrow.
Yeah, baby.
You'll find out who is representing Saskatchewan. You'll find out who is representing Manitoba, and you'll find out which team will be representing Saskatchewan. So join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock, because it's going to be exciting. These are all individuals that have never, ever been on the TV show. So all 6 people have never been on the TV show. Find out who they are tomorrow. And if you think, you know what, I'm an amazing multi-species angler, I'm going to join the CFN Fish Off, but I'm actually good enough to win some money because I'm such a good angler. There is multi-species madness through the MyCatch app, $50 entry fee, $2,000 prize reward. More details about that, but I just want to plug that in your ear because it's an awesome opportunity and it's fun. And who couldn't use another $2,000? Because with that money, you can go to the CFN OFC retreat in September. So come join us. It'll be an awesome time.
Right on, Mike. Well, great segue. Well done, dude. It's almost like you rehearsed this last night.
I talk for a living. That's what I do.
Fantastic job. So join us tomorrow again at 7, where we will reveal, as Mike says, the remaining teams, and we'll let you all in on who's going to be appearing on TV. There are some surprises, and I'm really proud of the anglers that have said yes and that they wanted to partake in it because it's a great representation of our angling community as well as our provinces. So
I'm going to reveal a little tiny detail about tomorrow. We are revealing 5 anglers. Let me see. No, we are revealing 6 anglers, 3 provinces, 5 of the 6, and Yvonne's going to love this. 5 of the 6 are females.
Yeah, baby.
5 of the 6 are females. Who are they? Join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
Right on, Mike. Thanks so much for this, dude.
All right. Peace.
Peace. And on that note, it is time for our theme song that we love so much. And I'm going to play this to introduce Yvonne right after this. What up? How you doing tonight?
I'm great. Scotty, how about yourself?
Oh, living the dream, as they say, living the dream. And yes, thanks, Sally, for pointing this out. And of course, you, Christina. This is the Lures for Vets. This is our good friend Clarence, who puts on this program and gets vets fishing. It's a great, great cause that he does. And I'm honored to wear a jersey like this. And yes, you know what it does, Christina? It covers up a lot of the unneeded Scotty stuff. Let's just say that.
I need one of those.
Amen. Amen. Don't we all? 100%. So, Yvonne, how you been keeping?
I've been good. I've been really good. I
Right on.
finished up. I know some people know this. I went back to school.
Yes.
I think it's got to be close to 3 years or maybe just over 3 years. And I've been doing it part-time. So I just finished my last 2 courses and I graduate in June. So I'm super happy about that.
Good for you. Right on.
Yeah.
That's
Never too
awesome.
late to go back to school.
No. Well, maybe for some of us, but
No,
not
my
for you.
mom is 85. She just turned 85 and she still goes to Spanish classes.
Wow.
She actually went to Spain. This is maybe 5-6 years ago. She went to Spain and enrolled in a course in a university there. And she's 78 or 80 at the time. Yeah, she's the poster child for continuous education.
Well, she has set a great example, and you
Yeah.
have followed in her footsteps. So,
Yeah.
good on you. I
Good.
do know that you do have some announcements for OWA and perhaps maybe other things. We are
do.
awaiting Emily.
And you know what? I just realized when I look back at a message, I thought she's in Saskatchewan, so it's Central Time. They're actually 2 hours behind.
Oh,
I thought it was 1, so she's going to show up at 8:00.
oh, perfect. Perfect.
So I can do my announcements now. You can chat with the guys, and I'll hang around until
Okay.
she shows, if that's okay.
Works for me.
Okay, great. So I won't take up too much time, I hope.
It's all good.
So trout opener weekend, we had a steal ahead event. We fished both days and had 18 ladies out. It went really, really well. They had a lot of fish on. They got to work on their hook set just a little bit, but they did land a number of fish. And for a lot of people, this is their first time ever experiencing steelhead or like fishing, like creek fishing and catching their first trout. So they were super happy about it. And we had 2 really, really good days. I just want to thank that we had 4 volunteers to help with the ladies. Tanya McLean, Amanda Holder, and my son, Kyle Merrilees, came out,
Nice.
and his friend, Mike Maroney. So they were wonderful. And Jen Brooks came and took a lot of the pictures of the day too. So we were super happy. It's been 3 years since we've been able to do that event. So we were so glad to be back on the creek.
That's awesome. And did you do a cleanup on the same day?
No, we just did that was on Saturday. This
This
just
Saturday,
past Saturday, and there were, I think, adults and children. I think we had about 25 to 30 people,
Awesome.
and we all picked sort of boat launches or shorelines in southern Ontario. My husband and I did a couple of launches on Lowborough Lake. Someone did Sydenham. Kat and her, another group, they were out probably Kitchener way. I can't remember where the other locations were, but yeah, there were lots of garbage picked up, and it was just great. So next year we're going to tie it into like the Earth Day weekend, which I think is April 22nd in 2023. We couldn't do it Earth Day this year because I already booked the Steelhead event, so we're going to switch it around a bit.
Right on. Just
But I
curious,
think it's a
asking
great
how much
thing.
garbage? How much garbage did you pick up?
Oh, I know my husband and I, we were like 2 full bags plus a lawn chair. And I think Kat and her team were, I want to say maybe 8 to 12 bags. And she was actually interviewed by CTV in Kitchener.
Cool.
And she was saying like at one point there was someone, they stood in one spot for 20 minutes and just picked up everything around them. Like they didn't even have to walk. And it's everything from like drug paraphernalia, lots of plastic, styrofoam worm containers, needles. I think plastic, and the one thing that I noticed is cigarette butts. I picked a lot of those up. But yeah, it's surprising. I mean, I know a lot of stuff gets blown off boats and blows offshore, but I definitely think people in the outdoors could be doing a much better job at packing their garbage out.
Well, I can see Lawrence is squirming in his chair right now because you know how he's all about water quality, and
yes,
regretfully, as great of a story as it is that you guys did a cleanup, it's unfortunate that we continue to treat this planet like a dump. So, well, good on you for doing your part, OWA, and all the volunteers that showed up for that. We need more of that happening.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a better. This is the first time doing it, but I'd like to do it as an annual event.
Wow, that's awesome.
Just want to do an update on the Chris McDougall fundraiser. The GoFundMe page, I think you can still donate, but through GoFundMe we've raised $11,360. So I thank everyone that contributed towards that. We have another $1,650 in donations and other fundraising things that we did. So that's just over $13,000. And we have one more thing that we're doing. Faye Tan, who did our OWA logo, she's modified it to put the pink ribbon in there for breast cancer awareness.
Nice.
So we've got some fundraising t-shirts. I'll post the link in a second to our online store. And a majority of the profits will go to Chris directly with another contribution going to the Kelly Shires Breast Cancer Foundation.
Right
we've helped them at their golf tournaments a number of times, and they directly support women with breast cancer, whether it's they need financial aid, like loss of income, buying different things that they would need for support. So we like to try and support them as well.
Right on. Great work.
And the last thing, we have the Chester Cup. Chester Cup started off as a kind of a fun social thing when my husband lived on Lowborough Lake. And we had a lot of these, we called them piranhas because they used to bite you if you swam off the dock. But all these pumpkin seed and bluegill, and we used to feed them too, right? So they were accustomed to us. So it's a shoreline tournament. It's going to be perch and either or bluegill and pumpkin seed. I kind of put them in one category now because there's so many hybrids out there.
100%.
Yeah, shoreline only. You must fish with either a kid's rod or an ice fishing rod.
Nice.
Yeah. So and then we'll have some prizes. It'll be like big fish in both categories.
Very cool. And when is that?
May 29th, Sunday, May 29th.
Right on. Good call. So as I said, if folks, if you are looking to get involved, this of course is the link. Thanks so much to Steve for posting these. He is always on the ball, this lad. Yeah, if you want to learn more, go to that link or talk to Yvonne directly.
Okay, and I posted the link to our online store, and you'll see pictures of the fundraising t-shirts that we've got. we've also got a couple of new items, some camo caps and whatever else. I don't know. We just put it all up online about a week ago.
Right on. Christina is asking, where did the Chester
Oh,
name come from? Is there a story behind it?
yeah, it's kind of a sad story. But
Oh.
so when my husband lived on Lowborough Lake, he had a neighbor. He still lives on the lake, and he had a hunt camp. Just there's like a trail not too far from where Tom's house was, and he was going down there, and he saw this black garbage bag in the ditch. So of course, I mean, he travels this path all the time. So he picked it up. He opened it. There was a cat in it, half dead, a box of food, and a blanket. So this was someone's pet that they discarded. So he brings it to the hunt camp. He rehabilitates it. It's a male cat that's not been fixed. So he starts to spray all over the place. And he just takes off one day and he's gone. And Mark, the man, just said, oh, I guess he's feeling better. He's out. And a couple of days later, he shows up at Mark's house.
Huh?
Which is, yeah, like 5 kilometers away or something like that. He shows up at the guy's house. So this was in the fall. So I don't know if he was feeding him. I guess he was feeding him. But anyways, Christmas Eve, he shows up at our door. And he's this beautiful orange cat. He's just gorgeous. And he shows up at our door and like, I don't like cat hair, right? So we didn't let him in the house. Plus we didn't know who he belonged to. So we started feeding him. And it was a pretty tough winter because this was a house cat that was dumped out in the outdoors and he didn't know how to survive, but he did. He managed through the winter. We fed him as much as we could. And, you know, he was very, very skittish. He wouldn't come anywhere near us for the longest time. It took him a lot of, you know, coaxing just to get him to come close to us, let alone being touched. So over the spring and summer, he did become accustomed to us. I guess, I mean, we were his kitchen, so he's happy to return. Wow. And so the next winter, the fall leading into the winter, he knew, I guess his body knew what he was going to be up against as far as the cold and the lack of food. So he was eating like crazy, right? Now we just fed him because we knew he had to build up fat. And when we did the first Chester Cup, I don't know if we've named it after him, but he was there, right? He stuck around for the day. Wow. And I think the following year, and then we moved. And I was so upset because we had to leave this cat behind because we had to go live in a trailer because our house wasn't ready and it was a big schmozzle. And I was so upset. And I would actually go back to the house even after it was sold. And I would call him and he would come. And then I went and I was calling him for a while and he wouldn't come. So I stopped going. And I later heard that it's a rumor. The new owners didn't like him. And I don't know if they complained or whatever, but I think, Chester was on his own. Like he used to come and he didn't know the difference. Like he didn't know what other animals were. So he'd show up and he'd have like an ear half torn or he'd be big scratch. He's getting into fights with other animals. He'd lay on our deck and a mouse would run and he'd just kind of look at it like, what? Or birds. We had a bird feeder he wouldn't touch. So what we heard was that he was put down the farmer's way. Yeah. I guess someone felt responsible enough or decided maybe he was a pest or whatever. But last we heard, and I don't even want to ask the person because I'd be upset if he said, yes, that's what happened. But I was told that, yeah, he was, his life was ended.
Well, geez, Christina, thanks so much for asking the question of where the Chester Cup got its name and the story behind it, because that was quite the story. Holy smokes. Yeah.
So the Chester Cup, it probably is a Chester Cup Memorial Tournament, but we just call it the Chester Cup.
Wow. Well, I have great news. Emily has joined us in the lobby.
Oh, good.
So perfect timing. Let's bring in Emily now. Emily, how you doing tonight?
Hello.
Right on.
I'm doing good.
Fantastic. Well, we apologize. Obviously, the time change we may not have gotten right, but you managed to get on real quick. I'm glad you managed to figure it out too. As I saw your message, you were having difficulties. It is a new concept. We are doing this on a whim with no audio or video checks. So, folks, if it isn't perfect, We apologize up front, but welcome, Emily.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, I've been struggling. You know, the internet out here isn't the best, but I've been trying to download Chrome and Firefox, and then I ended up just hopping on Daryl's computer. Oh, I got a hi here. Hi, a whole bunch of highs. So yeah, no. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm happy to be here, and yeah, I feel honored. Thanks.
Right on. I'll let you start, Yvonne, as you always do.
Sure.
Now, they won't be, I'm going to warn you, these are going to be some tough questions, Emily.
Oh yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay.
I'm just
I'm ready.
kidding. Oh!
Nothing phases this woman. I'm telling you. I met Emily, and I think it was when you and I, and there were two other ladies. We did that outdoor panel in 2016 at the Toronto Sportsman Show. And so we were there. Emily and I were on the panel as anglers, and there were two other ladies. I think Barb Sherman was one. I can't remember the fourth. And they were on as hunters. And it was we were asked questions or whatever. And every time it came to Emily, I just thought I was so impressed. Like, she's articulate and she was so funny. She's got these great anecdotes. She had everybody laughing. And she was credible and genuine and everything. I thought, wow, she's a firecracker. She's got tons of energy. And then over the years, I've seen her, her social media posts, and she's like really into hunting and fishing. And I don't know if you do motocross anymore.
No, I just got a pit bike recently, so maybe I'm kind of dabbling back in the game. But I actually bought the pit bike for checking fields and for antlers and shed hunting, and just actually I'm going to be the camp boss there. I'm going to take it to the camp and ride around the lodge and whatever. But no, my final race was when I was, I think, around 21, and I tried to go back and race one of the hardest ones of the series, and it's really muddy and tough. And I remember just thinking it just wasn't in the cards anymore. I broke my back when I was 17, and so I recovered and worked really hard to get back on the bike, and was super determined and was racing the boys class at the time. And I just wasn't competitive. I was getting scared. I was working a lot, having to pay for all of it. So I just figured fishing's way safer. Let's do that.
I have to second that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say 21, like you make it sound like it was a decade ago. I was saying to Yvonne, you're guiding, and we'll get into that later, but I know it's inappropriate to ask a woman's age, so I will not do that, but you seem very young for someone that has achieved so much. Holy smokes. Wow.
I'm 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No comment.
No, I'm 27. Like I said, it feels like a decade ago that I was racing, to be honest. It feels like it, but I guess it's kind of getting close to that, really, if I think about it.
Yeah.
So,
gosh.
Yeah.
So I wrote all these questions and all that. So I've seen your posts over the years. I don't know when I met you in 2016 if you were as involved in hunting as you are now, because I see a lot of your photographs are of hunting.
Yeah, like, funny story. I actually was. If anything, I actually put even more time in deer hunting back then than I did now in Ontario. But it was I didn't post about it, to be honest. My parents at the time, they are not hunters or anglers. They're motocrossers. They did not like when I first started hunting. Like, they were mortified when I got my gun license in like 2012 or something. So yeah, like I said, it was kind of just something that I did, and kind of just was a personal journey and this and that. And then once I realized, I remember posting one turkey and just thinking, oh, well, this didn't go so bad. I'm just going to start going from there. But, hunting's an expensive sport. It's hard to do when you're on your own. I moved out when I was 16, 17 to go to college, always, paying for everything myself, so it wasn't, it's hard to try to keep up with it all, so.
Yeah. And just continue along the hunting vein. There were pictures of deer, coyote. I've seen ducks and geese and sandhill cranes.
Yeah.
Is that in Saskatchewan too?
Yeah, so I actually was not really a big waterfowl hunter, to be honest, before I came out here. Like I knew what snow geese were, but we didn't have them out, where we're from in southern Ontario. Same with cranes, you see them the odd time up in the air. But
Mhm.
yeah, so when I moved out here, of course, with guiding, it was a dream, but it's only 3 months of the year. So I'm thinking, well, it'd be awesome to be able to take up other guiding opportunities to fill in that time. And so Daryl said to me, well, if you wanted, I would be able to give you an opportunity to start scouting and, while you're learning how to call and et cetera, et cetera. So I just take my call to the basement and just watch YouTube videos. And now, now I can do all my spit clocks and triple clocks and, it's helping teach other people. And so, yeah, so it's really cool where we're at in Saskatchewan, because where we're guiding, it's not just ducks and geese. We got
Mhm.
snow geese, we got speckled geese, we got all the snows and of course the cranes and tons of ducks. And so it's definitely it was a huge learning curve. I cried a lot in my scout card, but I yeah, now it's a lot better. I have fun with it now. Yeah. Yeah.
What does sandhill crane taste like?
Amazing. Like, when
Yeah.
people say that cliche ribeye of the sky or whatever, like it
Oh yeah.
genuinely is such a delicious meat, and it's very, very red, very, very tender, forgiving to cook. I really enjoy it just because, I like to eat it a little bit more on the rare side, and you can cook it
Mm.
literally just like a steak, like I said. And they eat insects. Actually, a lot of people assume they're eating grain when they're out in the field, but they like eating crickets and insects. So they taste really good. Bug
Yeah.
eaters.
Well, Tony is asking, I'm assuming that would be your favorite wild meat then?
Yeah, I would actually say like sandhill crane or venison, like a very, very, yeah, I see moose meat here in a comment. Yeah,
Oh
like
yeah.
venison or sandhill, because like I said, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I like to eat meat super, super rare. So, with those animals, I feel the most comfortable doing so. But yeah, no, those are my top two at the end.
Um, so your family wasn't they weren't into hunting, and were they involved in fishing or anything else in the outdoors?
No, so I guess like the most involved in the outdoors they would have had is back before my sister and I were born in the 80s. They had a houseboat on Lake Ontario. And so I guess the odd time they'd, try to throw spoons for salmon or whatever and troll. But yeah, no, they're outdoorsy. My dad, he actually just retired recently, but they had a property maintenance company. They service like big communities in Port Perry, like Castle Harbor and that kind of thing, cutting grass, tree removal. So my dad would always say, I get enough time outside at work. I don't need to stand outside any longer in my off time. And coincidentally, we'd always go camping. So, but yeah, we grew up on a farm, like a hobby farm, and always had a dirt bike track. And there's a pond there that I'd stock full of bass. And when I was a kid, from my neighbor's pond there, and it was just fun, So they've grown to like it though. I'll be honest. I'm surprised. They've definitely come around. So yeah.
Um, so let's talk about guiding. How did that all start? And you're at Slippery Winds Wilderness Lodge, and that's about
Yep.
2 hours north of Fort Francis.
Yep, correct. Yeah. So I'm Slippery was actually one of the first lodges I started guiding at fishing. I started at another lodge before that, and it just was not the place for me. So I ended up at Slippery and stayed ever since. And I guess going back further, so I out of school, my parents like got to go to college, and so I decided to go for hotel management because I figured it was general. I'd have business courses, hospitality, could be an asset to a cousin who owned a restaurant down the road, perhaps, whatever. So did that, graduated, worked for Tech Vest, the snowmobile company, make the protective vest for snowcross, still racing at the time, raced some snowcross myself, got a spot on a team. Then, like I said, I just wasn't racing, kind of dropping out of the racing world. And I really was liking to fish at that time more and more, and a little tin boat and whatever. And so I thought, you know what, it'd be really cool to go sell boats and try doing something in the industry. I knew I could do sales. I used to sell motorcycle parts and whatever. I figured if I learned the product, I could do it. So I worked selling boats at DT Power Sports in Uxbridge, and it was awesome. It was great. It was fun. It was different. Good days, bad days. But it was great. And then, you know, that's kind of how I got introduced to a lot of people in the industry, like Chris Hockley, for example, at Rapala, and blah, blah, blah. And then when I was selling boats, I realized I don't have any time to fish myself. I was always working. I never had time to go out. And so I was sick of watching people just being like, oh, you know, have fun. And so I decided I wanted to be a conservation officer because I would at least be outside still working, and, you know, I'd have a noble job in my parents' eyes sort of deal. And so I went back to Fleming and I took the fish and wildlife course, and maybe to enhance my fishing skills too. You know, learning biology never helps. And so, or never doesn't help, I guess. And so did that, graduated fish and wildlife, decided, you know what, I don't want to be a conservation officer either, because then A, hard to find a job, and B, won't be able to hunt or fish either. So someone said, why don't you guide? And I thought, well, I thought you were either Bob Lazumi or you were doing bass tournaments. I didn't think that, or, you know, biology side, I didn't think that guiding was even a job that even existed, to be honest with both of you. So anyway, so I applied to probably close to 300 lodges. And I had experience chainsawing, cutting grass, working on a farm, running machinery, fixing, you know, boat motors, you know, and nobody wanted me. And so I remember finally, like I said, I got a job at Slippery, and I was actually taking over Daryl, my boyfriend's job. He was leaving to go to Great Bear, and so I was filling in for him the rest of the season. And yeah, and so that's kind of how it started. And then I got more experience and kind of got a good reputation, I guess, as a hard worker. More people were open to take me at their camps and take the risk with a woman guide, I guess. So, and now, you know, it's crazy. So fun. I know, you know, I always have opportunity, and I get to go all over the country, and it's just a dream.
Sorry, how long ago did you start guiding?
Oh gosh, probably 2017 or 2018 now. So quite a few years ago now. It feels like an eternity, to be honest, but it hasn't been that long.
Now, if someone were, say, out in Saskatchewan, where would they be able to go to book you for a guided day? Christina's asking.
Yeah, so if I would recommend, honestly, like, it sounds crazy, but we're all super private with our locations out here. Even if you're to go on our professional website for the bird hunting, it just literally says Saskatchewan. Will secretly tell you where you're going when you arrive, basically. So I would say, like I said, for any bookings, just send me a message or an email that's on my Instagram, or, like I said, direct message me on here. And then whether it be a fishing trip or a hunting trip, like I said, I have connections kind of all over. So if you wanted to do lake trout, go to Baker's. If you want to do walleye, go to Slippery. So yeah, just send me a message and I can. Oh, thanks, sir. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, no, and send me a message and I can direct you in the right direction.
That was one of my questions: how to get in contact with you if you wanted someone.
Yeah,
wanted
just send me a message. I check them periodically. Like I said, I probably should check them more, but I do check them still.
So you're guiding almost year round then? Like you guide ice fishing as well?
Yeah. So, oh yeah, there I am. Funny story. I actually normally take the winter just to relax. We work on we have a little house out here in Saskatchewan, work on the waterfowl lodge. You know what I mean? Just honestly sleep and relax. After spring, summer, fall comes, you know, you're doing 100 and something days straight of guiding. You're just pooped, and it, you know, gives me time to help the neighbors out, the landowners, with some work. But anyway, this winter we had too much snow, so I couldn't coyote hunt, and it's not really worth buying a snowmobile out here, considering, you know, it's spotty but deep. And so I figured, well, you know what, I can't just sit around. I'm gonna call a few lodges and see if they need a nice guide, you know, just out of the blue. And so I called Brett at Baker's, and he said, well, you know, we're not really that busy right now, but, you know, if you wanted to come up and check the lodge out and do some fishing and do some media, which is a dream to be asked at, because like I said, I was begging to even work for half free before. So I said, yeah, I'd love to come up and see the place, and because I heard good things. And then he calls me back about 4 days later, and my truck was at the diesel mechanic, and he's like, can you come up tomorrow? You know, I really need you to guide next week. It's really, really busy. And so, sorry. Oh, we got a special guest. So anyway, and so, yeah, and so I ended up going out there on just late December, and then staying until mid-March. And then I thought I was so clever by leaving before the slush came and before our season ended here to get some big pike. But we're in such a drought that all the bays literally are empty, like just absolutely empty. So it was really tough to say the least. So should have stayed at Baker's till now. But yeah, so I got asked to go back next year full time, and Daryl as well. He ended up coming up to help out because we got really busy in the winter, and so yeah, that's going to be my gig from now on in the winter time. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
just,
cool.
Just a question about like when you said, yeah, I know people taking a chance with a female guide, like going, let's say, over the last 10 years, what kind of trends or changes have you noticed in for women in the outdoors?
For myself, like, I guess I've definitely been in this for a solid 10 plus years now. So like, I guess I've watched a lot happen, a lot of people come and go, and, and some people stay and flourish. And, I've noticed nowadays, like, it's kind of ironic, actually. I was saying this the other day. The outdoors used to be about who would spend the least amount of time, showing off to others and spending their time being quiet about it and enjoying. And now it's like the more stage photos you have and the more, photography and time you put into your Instagram, the more credible of an outdoorsman, you seem to be. So I think the Instagram's definitely like changed that a lot. And like, well, not just Instagram, social media, like, and like, I don't blame people, I guess it's cool, for people to be able to post and brag what you get and whatever. But I just think like, it just, I'm not going to buy any teeth whitening kits off of people who are trying to sell me, fishing lures. Let's just put it that way. I don't know.
I love that.
Told you she was funny.
That's awesome.
I don't know. Like I said, it's just one of those things where, yeah. And like I said, it doesn't really bother me much because like all of this is, if you worry about everybody else, you're never going to get anywhere because you're going to be sitting in this chair on your phone. Look, oh my God, so-and-so got a huge deer. Oh my God. Like, no, just go out there and do it. Cause like, I say it to everyone, like my parents were so against all this. Like, I remember like them hiding my tree stands on me and stuff. And like, it was quite a difficult journey, like, facing that alone with trying to, figure all this out. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have someone to help me. And so, I figured to people, if I can do it, oh my God, you can do it. Because I can give you some good experience and probably give you some old gear, and you're going to probably be ahead of me one day, probably shortly. So, I think, like I said, the more time, it's undeniable the ones that are working hard and trying hard. So they'll never.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
well, Yvonne, I can see we're going to probably have to have Emily on again.
We will.
We could do an entire hour with her, especially the stories. And
I know she has tons of them. I know she does.
I can only imagine. But on behalf of CFN, Emily, thanks so much for joining us, sharing with us all of your incredible tales. And if you are out in the province of Saskatchewan, by all means, please get in touch with this lady, because as we have shown, she has a lot of great fish picks and, of course, some great hunting picks as well. So I highly recommend anybody and everyone to go visit. And Yvonne, thanks so much again for co-hosting with me. It's always a pleasure, and you always hit it out of the park.
Thanks.
And this one, it's not going to come down for quite a while, that ball.
No, we do have a little giveaway like we normally do. I know you're with Rapala, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But we're sponsored by Shimano, so it's got to be Shimano.
That's cool. No, they're cool too. They're very cool.
So we usually like post a question that's kind of related either to information they can find on your Facebook, the Emily Head Outdoors Facebook page, or something from the interview, and then people will win. So we've got a Shimano it's a Keep Canada fishing hat. These ones were specially made, and we've got a Shimano decal and a Power Pro buff, and then I think I've got maybe some OWA gear or something. So I'll be posting a question tomorrow, and people can go to our website and answer. But I just want to say thanks very much for being on the show, and it's been great following you over the last several years and seeing what you're doing today and hearing all about it. And I would love to have you come back on CFN Live.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Right on. Well, as always, the lads will be coming up next, but before that, we'll go to one of Jason's sponsors. Thanks so much again, Yvonne. Emily,
Okay.
take care. All the best.
All right.
Bye now.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have. Thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural. Man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
There they are, the lads. How are you?
Hey, what's happening?
Well, I'll tell you, what a firecracker. And yet another incredible guest that Yvonne has found. I knew nothing about Emily and her story. Just incredible. Broke her back. Again, I'm just amazed at some of the guests that Yvonne brings on here. But as always, we have you two gems as well. And unfortunately, Yvonne started with the river cleanup, and I saw you fidgeting once. It is upsetting. We always talk about water clarity, and you have something to discuss when it comes to some of the upcoming changes, let's say, to our carbon footprint and the proclamations that perhaps we might be out of the fossil fuel business and the burning of fossil fuels to create energy with the introduction of these micro nuclear generating plants. But give us an update on how we're dealing with those other plants that have now been defunct. Lawrence's mic is
38, I think, in total nuclear reactors spread around the Great Lakes, the shores of the Great Lakes. So this is something pretty significant because these things have a lifespan of between 30 and 60 years. So what do you do with them? So the International Joint Commission is a Canada-US international body that was created in 1909, and they are responsible for coming up with recommendations and policy advice to make sure that Canada and the United States don't get into squabbles about shared water, shared assets like that. And they just released a report. It took 4 years to build, 4 years to write this report, to research it, to have consultations with stakeholders. And it's basically, it covers 3 questions. One, what do you do with the spent fuel that's being stored on the shores of the Great Lakes next to all these nuclear power stations? Number 2, what do you do with the nuclear power stations themselves once they're shut down and the property they're on? And number 3, what do you do with all the spent fuel when you gather it up and you store it somewhere more long-term? Like long-term, and I'm talking, tens of thousands of years this stuff has to be tucked away somewhere. So there's these 3 giant questions that are looming because of these power plants, and they were all built in the 60s and 70s, right? So already they're all getting 40, 50 years old. So yeah, this is coming. This is coming.
I'll let you jump in, Jay, because I know you have some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I just find that there are some good reasons why we're going this way, and we don't have to go back to the dead lake period of the 60s. We up around Sudbury and other places. Like there's reasons why we're looking at other alternative fuel sources. I worry that we're moving a little too quickly sometimes. I'm a little concerned. I'm just a little concerned about that, to be honest. Like I love the idea of alternative uses, but Scotty, we were talking backstage before the show. What is the big plan, and does the plan fit what we need done in the short term and the long term?
And I don't want to be callous, and I don't want to be disrespectful to those who do shape what our future looks like. But to me, from where I sit, it doesn't look like we have much of a plan. We have made that proclamation that we are going to be out of fossil fuels, or at least the burning of fossil fuels when it comes to creating energy. And I've heard so many different dates, 2050, 2036, 2030. But at the end of the day, as we said, that's great. And if it's going to clean up our environment and our water, I'm all for it. But when we rush things, that's when we make mistakes. And especially when we don't have a plan, because it doesn't seem like we have one. I'm a little concerned at what it's going to look like in the future.
Well, that's exactly what this report was getting to. There's no plan. Like we've had these reactors on the shores of the Great Lakes now since the 1960s and 70s, and there's no plan. There's no plan to deal with the spent fuel. There's no plan on how to, a plan that's sort of from state to state to province. Like there's no rhyme or reason. They're all going in different directions. No, the consultation, talking to the people that live near these things, that's not happening as much. So we need to get our ducks lined up on all this, because, okay, say, put aside the question of whether or not we're going to produce electricity using nuclear power in the future. I mean, look, you talk about rushing ahead with the new projects. The federal government's putting out tenders and saying, hey, come up with some ideas to build some tiny modular nuclear power plants that can be scattered around like Honda generators, right? I mean, not that small, but small enough that you could power a community of 5,000 people, and it would supply that community with electricity. And by the way, this is something that, our friends in the north, the Inuit, this is something they've been asking for. They're depending on diesel fuel up there. In the wintertime, there's no sun. Quite often, there's no wind. So what do you got? You got diesel fueled, diesel power electrical generation. And what just happened in Nunavut is they just had a leak, and 18,000 liters of diesel fuel was spilled under the ice of the Hudson's Bay, where there was no chance of recovering it. It was a pump that was left on at a tank that they were emptying, that they were going to decommission a holding tank for diesel fuel. And the pump was left on, pumped it out into the Hudson's Bay under the ice. So, this shit happens, right? So they want to have a more reliable source. And they think these micro nuclear power stations is the way to go. So these things, we're not done with this. I don't think we're done with this.
Well, it seems to be, as Steve mentioned, nuclear power generation is the key, or is a key player in the net zero carbon emission. And I would have to agree with you, Steve, because really, unless there's some magic plan that we're not aware of, nuclear seems to be the only route that we will be able to go to compensate for the loss of natural gas and the power that it generates, the heat that it generates, and everything else. So, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Trout opener was last weekend. It looked extremely productive. Walleye opener on the Great Lakes was this past weekend. Jay, I would have to say there was definitely more trout caught, at least on the news feed from what I saw, than there was walleye on Lake Ontario. They're still hauling in great amounts in Lake Erie. But what's your take so far on the openers?
Well, there's a couple things to update on. Number one, I think that the rumor is some of the northern tribs, so I always think about Southern Ontario, sort of everything Georgian Bay and south. Okay, so some of the upper Huron tribs, Saugeen and those places, this past weekend was the Saugeen annual Steelheaders Derby, which takes place the weekend after trout opener, and the guys that did very well in that event said the fishing was very tough because a lot of the fish and these guys are all fishing below Denny's Dam on the Saugeen. A lot of the fish are still upriver in the spawning tribs. They haven't come back down yet. So this late spring and further north than where I am, the fish they're still on the move.
Yeah,
they're still spawning. So there's some late. A lot of the fish I'm seeing though, like a lot of our local tribs, Scotty. Local to me and local to you. I'm seeing a lot of dropbacks coming down. There's still a few fresh fish around, but it's winding down. But definitely there's still fish around for anglers to target, I think. And for us locally here, there's a few dropbacks, but a lot of anglers are targeting those resident brown trout. That's what's going on right now. And I won't lie to you. So I was out with Trevor a couple nights ago, just walking a couple creeks that aren't quite ready yet. There's a couple creeks that I actually need some of the vegetation to kind of start to fill in some of the areas so the fish aren't as spooky. And I saw a brown trout that as long as my arm, man, probably a good 24, 25 inches long, a stream.
Wow.
In a stream that's not much wider than my own van.
Wow.
I just saw the head of it tucked under a log, and I said to Trevor, look at the size of that fish. And that fish saw me as I saw it, and I was like, and it just goes to show you how some of these small creeks can produce amazing, like huge brown trout. And
Incredible.
to be honest, I have a 6-foot light action rod. I'm pretty undergunned. Even if I hooked into that thing, I think I probably would have. It just would have been another story to tell.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Oh, yeah.
but I have to say, there are some serious stories being told in Peterborough, Ontario. And for a lot of folks that don't realize this year is the first year in a long time where they've actually brought back what was the green wing trout under the lock trout derby. So at the famous lift lock in Peterborough, they would fence off the canal and they would stock it with trout. And you know, I haven't been to the event in years. I used to live in Peterborough. I haven't been there myself for years. And I shared the link in the chat for those that want to check it out. But it started on Saturday. It was, I believe the age limit on Saturday was 14 and under, 15 and under, something like that. But as of May 1st till May 8th, it's open to all ages. There's literally thousands of dollars of prizes up for grabs.
Wow.
$1,000, there's all these tagged fish. So let me read off a few sponsors, okay? So there's $1,000 tagged fish, Walter the trout. The rumor is it's over 10 pounds, okay? So Walter's 10-pound trout, $1,000 tagged fish. OFVH has put up almost $1,000 in tagged fish at $400 a piece. Peterborough Bassmasters, $200 trout. Our buddy Gord Trask at Get Fishing Custom Rod and Bait Works. He sponsored his. They sponsored Gordy, $200 trout that's tagged. Peterborough Pro Tackle sponsored 5 $200 trout.
Wow.
So in the link that I sent, you can go to that if you're in the Peterborough area over the next week, and you just want to go try and catch one of these tag trouts. Open to all ages now. You can sign up. There is a fee. It's like $25 to register for an adult, $10 for a kid. You can sign up on site or remotely online, and it's for another week. You can go fish for these tagged trout. Plus, there's other prizes too. So it is an awesome event, and I'm assuming because it's OFH, I'm sure that a lot of the proceeds are going to go to their efforts, conservation efforts. I haven't quite read through all the details yet, but what a very, very cool event.
That's so fun.
I see Steve chimed in there, like 1,000 kids. Like I saw it was on some of the news stations, covered it. Global covered it in Peterborough. Like, it's just so cool to see a sunny day and the lift lock is just lined with anglers.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
I haven't seen that in 2 years, an event like that. How awesome is that?
I was going to say, because as you said, it's a regular event, and it unfortunately with COVID, they weren't able to run it with a conscience, and it's nice to see it back. But it's nice to see the number of kids involved. So good on OFAH, good on all the sponsors, and get out there and catch a tagged fish. Question I have for you, and Christina brought this up sort of in the comments. A big kudos, at least I haven't seen a lot of it, and I hate to talk about it because it's such a negative topic, but of course I haven't seen anyway a lot of evidence of gutted trout for the sake of roe. So good on all the anglers for being ethical, but to that point, a lot of the pictures that I've been seeing of the trout caught, they seem like they're still ripe with eggs. The bellies are still fairly full. What's your take, Jay? Do you think it's going to be a good hatch? Do you think it was a successful spawn, or where do you think we're at?
We won't. That's the thing, Scotty. We won't really know until after, right? So, like, let's say we take a creek. Doesn't matter what creek it is. We're going to make up a creek, and that creek has 1,000 steelhead that come up it every year. There's going to be years where all 1,000 of those fish will spawn successfully. But a successful spawn is not driven by how many eggs are deposited. It's the conditions after the spawn and during the spawn too. So our anglers walking on the reds, which is a big no-no, right? So stay out of the creek, only cross the creek if you have to, or go in the creek if you have to, and try and avoid spawning reds. And the other thing too is it's those conditions after they spawn. So if we get a really warm stretch of weather immediately after opener, it's one of the worst things you can have for spawn fish. So if May gets really warm, it is really going to hurt spawning success, because all of these young trout are going to hatch by early summer. And we need some cold temperatures to allow those fish to hatch, and so they don't cook themselves out. Because as much as a lot of these creeks are spring fed, they go through some of these urban areas, right? Yeah. And so I think what anglers have to realize is it's quite often the minority of the fish that contribute the majority of the spawning success. So of those 1,000 trout that spawn in that creek, probably a typical year, only probably 10 or 20% of those fish really contribute to that population. And it depends on the health of that creek. Like I know around here, a lot of anglers will talk about how many young rainbow trout they catch in the local creeks around Norfolk County. And young rainbows, because the spawning success around here is really high. A lot of groundwater fed creeks and groundwater along the entire stretch of the creek, like for miles. Yeah. Whereas a creek like Duffins or Bronte Creek, you won't see a lot of groundwater coming in along the creek itself as it flows through those urban areas. They used to be more groundwater, but it gets augmented because of development. A lot of the good cold water resources are further up in the headwaters. So, Scotty, what will be successful is yet to be determined. But the Weather Network today said, I think the headline was, it was clickbait, man. I'm such a weather nut. I'm clickbait for this. It's like, hey, true, though. Yeah, don't get your hopes up for a warm May or something like that. Of course, wow. I and you're like, oh yeah, here we go. But that's great for trout. So it hurts my panfish. It hurts my walleye fishing. It hurts my pike fishing because I still need water temperatures to warm up a little bit more to get some of those fish on the move. But it's going to be good for the trout fishing. Right.
Same here. Crappie just haven't turned on yet. We haven't got the water temperatures up. They were getting close, and then they went back down again. I mean, we here in Eastern Ontario, it's just been cool. We've just getting out of the minus numbers in the evenings now, and just barely. But the nice thing is we got the walleye opening up on the St. Lawrence River this coming Saturday morning at 2:01 a.m. and that's always chaos down there at the Cardinal boat launch. You know, it's always a lot of fun.
I'm talking in very general terms. Like there's still like around here there is some good crappie fishing going on right now. The perch fishing is picking up. Okay. There's always a local creek, even where you are, Lawrence. Like one creek will warm before the next creek. You know, it depends on how it's made up and how much sun it gets and what the substrate at the bottom is like.
Water levels and
But we're talking in generalities here. But you're right. Like we're up where you are, and you're not terribly far north compared to us in sort of the whole scheme of things. You're 2 or 3 weeks behind us, and we're 2 or 3 weeks behind normal from what we would have down here.
Did you see Gord Piser's post? He said he's just done 7 months of continuous ice fishing.
Yeah, I love ice fishing, but I'd have my and there's still 30 inches of ice. He said, or 29 inches.
Oh my God!
It's true. We were talking to Walter out in Saskatchewan, who walleye opener I believe is this coming weekend, and the ice is just starting to recede from the shoreline, but you know you can still walk on it out in the main lake. So it's going to be really interesting to see what walleye opener is going to be like out in Saskatchewan.
Well, even today, Gord Ellis put on some. I saw on Twitter pictures of the spring freshet on the tributaries around Thunder Bay. Yeah. You know, Gord puts a lot of content out from Thunder Bay area through CBC and that, and that's their freshet. Our freshet down here was like the first week of March.
Yeah.
Our big one, our big melt, right?
It's interesting too out this way to talking to the Bealers last night, the amount of water that is moving through the St. Lawrence, and I was going to ask you, Lawrence, what are your water levels like out your way?
Holy crap! It can just range like so much. I was out there, like I think 3 years ago for the spring opener.
Yeah,
it was 2019, I think it was that year, and the cement wharfs were underwater. Yeah. And we just pulled out. We just pulled out from the dock, and the OPP and the OPP and the conservation officer zipped over in their boat. That was a bit of a funny story. I don't know if I told you this, but it's my boat, and I'm with my buddy, and so there's a police officer and a conservation officer on this other boat. And they come right over and they say, "Let's see your fishing licenses, please." And I said, "Look, I said I don't need one in Ontario because I'm blind." And they said, "How do I know you're blind?" And I'm so I'm thinking, oh no, how do I prove to them that I'm blind? So I'm going through all these contortions trying to prove to them I'm blind. And they say, well, you don't have a CNIB card? And I said, no, I don't. Well, I have one now. But they said, well, you should have that at least. Otherwise, anyone could just say they're blind. And I said, fair point, fair point. And then they're after my buddy, and they're saying, let's see your pleasure boat operator certificate. And he's going, oh, you know, he said, I forgot it at home. And they're giving him a hard time. And then I chirp up and I say, hang on, I got my pleasure boat operator certificate with me. The guy goes, you're blind. Oh my God.
Every time I hear these stories from you, Lawrence, I cringe. I tell you. And it just reminds me, you got to get better friends.
We laugh.
So the point of what Christina said, this is why I brought it up. Because I'm concerned. You know, Christina talks about the North Channel being extremely low, and this is what I'm starting to hear from a lot of folks is the waterways to our north are almost at midsummer levels. And
well, so there's some things happening here. So we haven't had the spring melt yet in the north, right? So if Gord Ellis is putting pictures of ice jams in Thunder Bay, you know, that's plugging up McIntyre Creek. We haven't had the ice melting yet up there. The lower Great Lakes do not achieve peak water levels until June.
Mm-hmm.
So you got high water in the St. Lawrence and water's coming down, but further up in the system, we're at low levels right now. And I've heard this year will be lower than years past, but we've been coming out of record water years, right? Yeah. So I'm curious, how low is low? Will it be record lows? I don't think so, but you know, I'm not a hydrologist, and this is not the system is actually woman, human controlled. Okay, it's anthropogenic influences, right? So we don't know what all this will hold because we're at the mercy of those who control the water control structures and Mother Nature. But in the end, we are at low water levels right now in some areas, but we will see water levels increase, and that will peak in June.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my buddy in Winnipeg, and he said, "Oh no, the river levels are just fine. Like no big serious risk here at all. Everything's looking good. We haven't had any heavy rains. The melt has mostly taken place already." And look at them now, right? 2 weeks later, boom.
Yeah.
So things can turn around pretty fast, and we get, you know, May is a wet month, so you know, I've seen the Rideau River here flood twice in a spring, spill its banks in one spring.
Wow.
So, but Scotty, I have some news for you about walleye.
Oh,
have you been getting your walleye news feed, Phil? Scotty, have you been getting your walleye news?
I'm getting the odd little tidbit here and there from a certain someone.
Okay.
Stevenson sent me.
I have to share this news with you. It came through the ticker today. This is fresh off the press. Okay, are you ready?
I don't know. I'm sitting down. Thank God.
Okay, here we go. So in Lake Erie. This is Lake Erie news. It's always good walleye news in Lake Erie.
Yeah.
In Lake Erie, in 2003, they did a study and they found that there was up to 180 walleye produced per hectare. And all the hatches since 2003 have been like decent, but not as good as 2003, Scotty, because 2003 was like 180 fish per hectare. They predict, based on trawling surveys done last year, that the 2021 hatch might have exceeded that and could be as high as 300 walleye per hectare in Lake Erie. And I'm going to put that up in the chat right now. And that's right out of the OFAH.
Smokes. And again, Jay, we don't have to explain it to you, but I'd love to be able to explain it to our community that's listening.
Of course.
That is an incredible number. And I can't think of another walleye fishery that has the ability in the ecosystem and food chain to sustain that many walleye per hectare.
Yeah. I put a link in the chat. It's a link to a graph where it actually shows these hatch records that's been put out. And just to see the figure where you had this 2003 peak and then terrible hatch years until about 2017, and they've been creeping up. And now 2021 might be the new benchmark for recent walleye in Lake Erie. And so, you know, what does it mean? Well, those walleye won't be catchable for years. And that's what I tell people, like, don't get too excited about it right now, but what it means is that there'll be catchable walleye for years to come. Because if there's that many fish hatched, there's going to be the Lake Erie walleye fishery, which also includes Lake St. Clair. To be honest, it just keeps getting better and better and better.
And that it's just amazing to me. It is truly the anomaly when it comes to walleye fisheries, that it is able to continuously sustain itself and exceed the spawn of the previous years. And as you said, Jay, I mean, things started to turn around in 2011. We saw a little bit of a spike. Then 2015, it seemed like it was starting to go up. 2016, as you mentioned, was a benchmark where everybody was in awe. And now you're saying that 2021, which again, it's been going up incrementally every year. But with that, so has the keep rate, like the take rate. Just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. Yes. Thank you so much, Mother Nature, for taking care of that walleye fishery.
Isn't it amazing? And what's great about it too, for the way I look at it too, Scotty, is I've seen so many random walleye catches now. It's like you don't have to be that dialed in walleye angler on Lake Erie anymore. There's so many fish out there. Like I see people catching walleye in places you normally wouldn't catch them. Like I could go chuck spoons for steelhead now in the fall off a pier along Lake Erie and catch the odd walleye now. Friends of mine in Long Point Bay, the shallow Long Point Bay, are catching walleye, which it's like unheard of, the walleye coming into the shallow bay, but it's like they have no place to go. There's so many walleye, they're just kind of spreading out to all the other places, right? So that's amazing. And it's a good testament for Lake Erie, right? So
are they dining on the gobies? Like I know in the St. Lawrence River, the walleye population has been building and building and building. And it seems just in the last 5 or so years, they've tuned into gobies, and it's their prime food source on the St. Lawrence. So
yeah, it's funny, Lawrence, because I do believe, I know they're eating gobies and more gobies. And I do hear that some of the guides on Lake Erie and a few friends, good for local friends who are pretty dialed in, they're not out in super deep water targeting these things. Like they're dragging worm harnesses in 15, 20 feet of water off some of the shallow reefs. Like
those are goby depths. Those are goby depths. That's where the gobies live, right?
But the goby numbers have been high in Lake Erie since the 90s, since the late 90s. So I think there has to be some habitat variables, some covariates that are feeding into this, where it's not just forage, because the spawning habitat must have improved somehow. And I don't know how it has, but it's not just forage. I think it's also has to be habitat for them too, because without the habitat, you don't get the successful spawning, right? Because you can lay all the eggs you want, but if those eggs are covered in silts or you don't get the right wind action or whatever, even though they hatch, there's lots of food for them, you need them to hatch first, and you need habitat for them to hatch. And then once they hatch, they have food to eat. And Scotty knows this better than me. I'm preaching to the choir.
And let's be honest. Like the majority of Lake Erie's fish come out of the Detroit River and the Western Basin. I think hands down, I don't think there's too much of an argument to say that the Eastern Basin is that productive of a walleye fishery. However, the fish do come east. They have to in order to chase the forage and find the food. But you're 100% right, Jay. Something is definitely happening in the Western Basin and the Detroit River that is either cleaning up the substrate and allowing for more eggs to be fertilized and incubated. Because to me, I don't know what else it could possibly be. So you're bang on there.
Christina makes a good question here. So does anything eat the zebra mussels? And goby is public enemy number one for zebra mussels. Like the zebra mussels came here from the Caspian Baltic region of Europe. Okay. And the gobies soon followed. The gobies eat the zebra mussels, and just with all invasive species, you're going to see a peak, and then you'll see a slight decline. You never see a graph where it just declines to zero. You'll see a drop, and then things will kind of plateau. And this has happened with invasions throughout time, not just with fish, with a lot of invasive species. What I think is probably happening is things are plateauing. So the zebra mussels peaked, and then the gobies peaked, and then the gobies reaped some of the zebra mussels. And I think some of the habitat, and there's actually been research on this in Lake Michigan. And Lawrence, you might have seen some of these videos as well, where they're showing that there's not as many zebra mussels per square meter anymore. There's still lots, but it's they're not as abundant as they were.
Well, the
And it's not like
the quagga mussels have pushed them out too, right? So now
right? Everything's in the state of flux.
Yeah.
And so I think in some places we might be seeing declines in zebra mussel density. I'm not going to say I don't want to say declines in zebra mussels because they're never going anywhere. But unless there's maybe some new pathogen that comes in and wipes them out, but I doubt that'll happen.
I think I don't know what for sure the zebra mussels have been displaced by quagga mussels, and for sure walleye, like smallmouth, came to the harvest on gobies way before walleye, and look what happened in St. Lawrence with the smallmouth, right? They just became giants, and same with the Lake Erie. Now the walleye have figured it out. Maybe they're just a little slower. Sorry about that, Scotty.
Sorry.
But now even lake trout are joining in at the buffet table with the gobies, right? They're really dining in on them as well, and their numbers are taking off.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. And then some of the comments here, like Ed talks about, like freshwater drum sheepshead, they eat mussels as well, both quagga and zebra mussels. Like, there are things that eat them, but in the end, we'll never be rid of zebra mussels, but I think there's got to be changes. So back to the point that these walleye hatches are incredibly successful, and Lawrence's point is valid, where once they hatch, because walleye are a unique fish, because when they hatch, and northern pike and muskie are like this too, they're ravenous. It does not take long. If there isn't a food source for walleye, guess who they eat? Each other, fast.
100%. It's unbelievable to see. But you literally can lose your entire hatch in 6 days. As soon as they absorb that yolk sac, they're
in one pond, gone.
They're eating it. And you'll go to seine it, and all you'll end up was like 1.5 pound walleye. Everything else is gone.
Wow.
And so I think, though, but the habitat must be getting better in these spawning areas for the walleye. And they're not just spawning in the Detroit River. They do spawn there. They also spawn on some of the Bass Islands areas and the shoals out in Western Basin. But that Detroit River, St. Clair River, Western Basin, that's the hub for all those Lake Erie walleye. And that walleye is actually, we know this through the GLaDOS network and through all the acoustic work. Some of those walleyes are spreading far and wide from that place. Like, they're going as far as Niagara Falls and as far north as up to the North Channel of Georgian Bay, 100%. Coming out of Lake Erie. It's incredible. It's incredible. Right
I have a question, and I'll let this will be the final question for both of you. But with this incredible news, and you know what, no one is happier than I. In fact, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. Will this spike in walleye in the years to come, because of this incredible hatch, have adverse effects to other species of fish?
I think it's going to impact yellow perch, but I think yellow perch's bigger problem is because I've read this in so many different reports, is that it is the lack of ice cover. Our warmer winters over the past 20 years, on average, we've had some cold ones. It's really put a number on the yellow perch fishery. And of course, more walleye ain't going to help them either. So there's a habitat issue with yellow perch. They're not spawning. And the habitat, so it's not that the bottom of the lake has changed as much as it is they need that under ice, or right when ice is out, spawning period. I've talked about it on the show before. And so the conditions, the timing of the ice and the spring temperatures has been all messed up from historical ways. And we've lost some of the perch. The perch spawns have been less. And I'm sure adding more predators to the food web is not helping the yellow perch at all either. So
same on
I think that's going to be adverse.
Yeah. Same on the St. Lawrence. The number of perch, yellow perch, has been dropping off for years. And people are saying, well, the weed beds are disappearing because there's less nutrients in the water. So that might have something to do with it. But there's got to be something going on there. And the other thing that we're losing out on the St. Lawrence is muskie and pike. You just don't see juvenile muskie and pike anymore.
Wow. Christina has a great question here, and of course, it's the biggest concern when you start to hear populations, of top predators booming like walleye are in Lake Erie. But I don't see any evidence of it. The commercial bait fishermen that I speak to, there's an overabundance of emerald shiners. But Christina's asking, she's heard emerald shiners are now going to be a thing of the past. Is this true? Do you know why? What's your take?
No, I think their populations are cyclical like everything else. Emerald shiners are native to the Great Lakes. They've done really well during some of the higher nutrient periods, and their populations might peter out a little bit. I know a lot of the local bait providers do have a hard time providing emerald shiners for bait. They're still the number one bait around here. Everyone uses emerald shiners to catch everything, like on Lake Erie. If you want to buy minnows, you're going to get emerald shiners. Their numbers are cyclical for some reason, but what drives that pattern, I don't know. But they do go up and down quite a bit. And I'm going to guess that as Lake Erie continues to sort of improve, emerald shiners might drop off because of that lack of nutrients in the lake itself, right? But we'll never get away from that in Lake Erie, because now we're having more algae issues in Lake Erie. Like Lake Erie is it's amazing how productive it is and how healthy it is, considering the amount of pressure Lake Erie is under from all of the, municipal and agricultural pressures it has. It's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
Christina, the fact that some of your bait shops are saying that there might not be an abundance of emeralds next year might be with the new restrictions on transporting bait fish. That might be the root cause of it.
Yeah.
That's probably a big part of it, and there's going to be an adjustment period. I've talked about on the show before where there's some of the zones have to, well, one, they need more bait, and two, they need more bait shops.
Amen.
Like it is going to be hard for anglers in some zones to use live bait. It's going to be a challenge.
Lawrence, Mark is saying that freshwater shrimp are down out your way.
I'll look into that, but that's good to know. That's good intel. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And of course, I sorry, Ed, for whatever reason, I have flashbacks of the Iraq War. How's the scud populations?
Well, actually, so that's a good question, Ed. I don't know the answer to that 100%, but Mark's question fits in that as well. So what's happening to the invertebrates? These invertebrates, the scuds, the freshwater shrimp, they're all copepods, and they're what the fish are going to eat when they're young, right? So, and that's been going through changes too, like spiny water flea, right? Daphnia, an invasive Daphnia species that some fish don't like to eat because of the spine, literally. So young fish have to change their diet because there's too many spiny water flea at some points. But it is those small crustaceans that are vitally important for young fish, especially for all species we're talking about tonight. Even muskellunge, northern pike, and walleye will feed on those small invertebrates until they switch over to fish. Right? There's a few days or a few weeks, depending on water temperature and time of year, where everything relies on those invertebrates to grow.
100%. And, if you ever dip a glass of water into Lake Erie, you'll see the clopids and phytoplankton in full display. It is extremely healthy, to say the least. Andrew, that's a great question you have. And he's asking, what is a bait management zone? And I will share what it looks like. This is the new ones that they have determined. And of course, this determines where you're allowed to transport and use bait fish. I do believe we had a link when we talked about this, Jay, and I can't find the link, but
I dropped a link in the chat for Andrew.
Oh, fantastic. So if you want to learn more, Andrew, go to that. And outside of that, folks, you know what? It's an hour and a half. Thanks so much, you two, for being as patient as you are, and coming on here every Monday and just lambasting us with an incredible amount of knowledge. Put your hand up if you got school tonight. I know I did. And I love it. I wish we could do more of it. Thanks so much for everyone who joined in. Of course, Yvonne and Emily, who put on a great show just previous to this. And I wish you two a great week ahead. And hopefully you get out fishing this coming weekend. The weather's supposed to be good.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to it. Going to do some fishing. Go Leafs, go. That's all I got to say.
No. Yeah. Go Leafs, go.
All right.
Right on, guys. Take care. As always, I can't thank you all enough. It's great to see the participation each and every Monday that we do this, and the fact that you guys buy in like you do means the absolute world. Remember, we are going to be doing the Camp Macintosh giveaway courtesy of the Shaw family. We have decided that our flavor for outdoor flavors is going to be the CFN blend, And if you want to go to Camp McIntosh, by all means, when you see the post, make sure you put your name down with a check mark, a green check mark, and we will show that in the above display in the post. So it'll be straightforward and easy to follow. Dave Mercer, take us out.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.